Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the third tier. It's been a couple of months since we've been live on air, and I just want to reiterate my thanks to you and your understanding for my situation. But first, let me just quickly introduce my guest, or should I say co-host, Matt. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm just to follow a Gilles theme at the moment. I'm here, but I'm not 100% fit. So I've been
Um,
struck down with this flu bug, which ain't fun. But at least my team keeps cheering me up on the weekly.
you've had the flu slash cold a couple of times in the last month or so, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's not been great fun.
Yeah. Just wanted to also take this opportunity to say how important it is to speak out if you're suffering with mental health. And although I've and others close to me have been through it, you should always talk. And our DMs, mine and Matt's, are both open for a chat. But just feel free to message us at any point. And I know Matt's been there for me through this whole time, and vice versa. So always good to talk. Onto the show anyway, which will now be monthly. We'll be looking into the current League One table, the form guide, some outstanding performers, and a little bit more as well. But we'll just do a quick recap of this weekend's results, and it was quite an action-packed weekend, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, another one never fails to disappoint, does it? League One. I don't think there's always some results that go with the form, and you always seem to find a couple that sort of go against it. And it was no different this weekend. Unfortunately, my team again, it went with the form. Um, I've just sent you a link to a tweet about a penalty shout at the weekend. I'm sure we'll get onto that in more detail. But yeah, it's good to be back first and foremost. And like I say, I can only reiterate what you said about mental health and all that. If you are struggling, talk to someone, whether it's a stranger, a professional, or a friend or a family member. Do it because it does help. I had a little
Yeah.
wobble last week. Was stuck indoors waiting for a COVID test result to come back. Felt rubbish. And you're just laying on the sofa, and your mind starts going into overdrive, and that's when you start. I wasn't thinking anything silly along them lines, but it just starts attacking you a little bit, and you get over emotional at stuff that you shouldn't get over emotional. And I'll be completely honest, and people can laugh, and that's fine because I laugh about it now, a week down the line nearly. But I was watching the Great British Bake Off and started welling up when the winner was announced, so I knew that I wasn't quite right. But
Mate,
such is life, and but no, I'm a lot better now. Luckily, the PCR test come back as negative, and that was a big weight lifted, and now I can just concentrate on getting better, and hopefully my football team would do the same as well.
yeah, absolutely, and it's really good to hear. But like we say, we're always here for each other, and anyone that listens or tweets us, then the same goes for you as well. So we'll start off where you sort of started the show, and we'll talk about Portsmouth a little bit and the Gillingham match. Obviously, 1-0 to the away team. Controversial decision not to get given a penalty. You've just literally, as you've said, sent me the link. And for me, it's an absolute stonewall. It's a free kick anywhere outside the box. It's a free kick inside the box, I should say, penalty inside the box. And regardless whether Bazuma's touched the ball or not, is pretty reckless in rushing out to the attacker and wipes him out.
Yeah, like you said, it's a stone waller. I've not seen anything. I've not seen any angle that changes my mind. I said at the time it was a stone waller. John Akindi for me gets there first and clips it over him. Whether he's got the ball under complete control is neither here nor there for me. Bazuma just comes at Bazuma and just absolutely clatters into him. If that's the other way round, keepers get protected. If that's half as ferocious, the contact on a goalkeeper, they'd get a free kick. And if that's any outfield player or any other outfield player on the halfway line, that's a free kick and a yellow card. There's talk of a couple of people have said that he got a bit of the ball, Bazuma, but he's still gone into John Akindi with excessive force for me. So for me, it's a penalty. And there was a shout of one up the other end as well. I think maybe that could have been given. The referee wasn't very good for both sides, so I'm not going to sit here and say it was just us and that Pompey got all the decisions. But one of the biggest ones, unfortunately for me, he got wrong, and that was at 0-0. And then we missed two chances after that. Danny Lloyd got into good areas and blasted them both over, unfortunately. And then when your luck's going against you, when you're down the bottom, Jack Tucker had literally just been given the sponsor's man of the match, and then 30 seconds later tries to cut out a cross and it hits him on the inside of the ankle and flies past Jamie coming into the bottom corner, and bedlam at one end and silence at the other, and it saw us go into the bottom four, unfortunately, and we're in a relegation battle. There's no point pretending otherwise. We're really, really struggling. We're not scoring. We're conceding. Got too many out injured. We then got one back and was available for selection for the weekend, Reece Bennett, from injury, and then he walked past someone who had COVID, so he's now got self-isolate for 10 days. So that didn't help the situation, and we're bringing on 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds at the moment, which is never ideal, and they're bringing on Michael Jacobs. There's the difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's a massive win for Portsmouth. I think it's 4 wins in a row now, puts them 9th in the table. And we were speaking September when we were last on here about how they were struggling, and are the Cowleys going to last too much longer? But stuck with them, and then the results come to fruition a little bit, and they start looking up the table a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Whether they're good enough to go up through the playoffs or automatically, I'm not sure. But one thing the Portsmouth fans have got to do is give Danny and Nicky Cowley time, because they are good managers at this level. They've proved that with Portsmouth, with Lincoln previously. I think they was proving it with Huddersfield in the Championship. I think they fell out with the chairman and they decided to leave, or mutual consent that usually gets bandied around. But did I see enough to think that they could gate crash the top 2? No. Did I see enough to think they can get in the top 6? Possibly. But there's a lot of other teams that could possibly get in the top 6. I know they had injuries as well. I mean, they had Conor Ogilvie was their only recognised centre half, playing centre half. I think it was then Freeman and Williams, the ex lad from Millwall. It was predominantly a centre back. So, but he's experienced and he's played in the Championship, so it's not like it was a kid they were chucking in. And he's very accomplished there and knows how to play the game. At the end of the day, there's a comment just come up from a Portsmouth fan. Just see if we can put that onto.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do it.
That's all right, sorry. Yeah, just as a Pompey fan, we've had shocking decisions from refs in recent weeks. So glad that won for us.
So at least he agrees it was a shocking decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'm ever going to see that as not a penalty, to be honest with you, not just because you're my co-host, but it's an absolutely reckless decision from the keeper. And what a season he's had as well, the keeper. But
yeah, he's top class. Yeah, and I've got nothing against Gavin Bazuma. It's the referee at the end of the day. He's gone out there and thought he can get the ball. He doesn't. Referee decides to give it a throw in, so that's not on Bazuma at all. He's a very good keeper. They've got good players, Portsmouth. They'll be there or thereabouts in terms of being around the top 6, the top 8. I don't think they've got enough quality to get in the top 2, not even close. But they're on a good run.
Yeah, we'll see what they do in January as well. But take this moment just say good evening, Charlie. Good evening, Andy. Good to have you back as well. Good evening. This is Luca's Life. And then good evening to the ever-present John. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Great win for you at the weekend, which segues us to MK Dons' result, 4-0 away from home against a very decent, organised Morecambe side. And a case of class sort of shown throughout at 2-0. Fisher makes an incredible save. In my opinion, it's a real game changer, just to the point of what Morecambe can be like at home. They just show being 2-0 down what they can do. And they never say die, i.e. the goal against Fleetwood just a couple of weeks ago. So it's really important that they continue to score goals, and that they did with the quality they've got on their side. So 4-0, I would say, probably didn't flatter MK Dons, but at the same time, the game could have swung either way if the keeper didn't make that save.
Yeah, I think it's Shrimps Online who I speak to quite a lot. He's a good lad as well. And again, another one who messaged me last week to see how I was doing. So thank you, and that's much appreciated, as it is from everyone else. But the worrying thing for me at the Morecambe at the moment, I think it's 1 win in 8 or 9. They're still too reliant on Cole Stockton for me. I don't think they score enough goals without him. We have to mention the 2 goals that he has scored since we last did a show. Obviously, one from only 40 yards and one from about 60 yards. The one against Fleetwood's an absolute joke. If that's not goal of the season, then fair play to whoever does score it. To do that, to even have the nerve to try that in the last minute of a local derby is unbelievable. To have the technical ability to pull it off and to actually stick it in the back of the net is wonderful. He's a very good footballer, and we're all seeing that, but it's the other end that concerns me for Morecambe at the moment. I think Shrimps Online said they played quite well, but they switched off a couple of times. Well, if you're playing well and getting beat 4-0, then you've got problems, I think, and that's a concern for any side. And I think they're only a point above Gillingham now. And if you think when we was last talking on our last live show, middle of September, they was absolutely flying. They was in the top half or thereabouts. Defensively, were organised. I'm not sure if that was just before the captain left and went to Chelsea, Charlton, Lavelle. But unfortunately, it seems to have had a big impact on them defensively. They're scoring still probably enough goals, but they're conceding far too many. I think they've conceded the most in the division, or they're in the top 3, and that's got to be a worry for any Morecambe fan.
Yeah, they've conceded 37 goals now and scored 29, and I think 13, 14 of them have come from Stockton, as you say. So the odd play is sort of chipping away, but not doing enough at the other end. And we did question whether Lavelle would be, a loss to them, regardless of his abilities and what fans thought of him. But he was clearly a pivotal part of that squad, and they are being affected without him. And like you say, just 2 points above the relegation zone now. And although they'll keep giving it a go, and they never say die attitude, they do need to rectify that as soon as possible. But just to touch upon that game, it's a really good finish. I think defender slips kind of makes it a little bit easier for him, but O'Reilly scoring a couple of goals and Darlan from a corner as well. Good thing about MK Dons is they are scoring a lot of goals. They've scored 37 goals this season, only 24 goals conceded, but they have so much creativity, and Scott Twine being one of them.
Yeah, they've got plenty of options everywhere. They've got goal scoring Issa, they've got goal scoring Max Waters, they've got midfielders that chip in, they've got a wing back that chips in Peter Kyoso. I've written down on the notes for tonight, MK Dons genuine contenders, definitely for the top 6, and I think for the top 2 as well. I'm not sure what the gap is. I know the top 3 are separated on goal difference, but MK Dons I think are on 34 points. Is it?
Yeah.
So they're going to be there or thereabouts, and they've got good players all over the park. They've not missed Russell Martin at all. Liam Manning's come in, and it's just been completely seamless. Yeah, they'll be right up there for me.
Yeah, 4 points separate, or even 5 separate from the top 7, really. So in this league, and with games coming up at Christmas, it's gonna change probably about 6 or 7 times, no doubt. But they'll certainly be up there. I think they just need to find a bit of consistency in terms of, not having that odd defeat or a couple of defeats in a row. And I think they can start being serious contenders. So absolutely. Moving on to the next game. I had written down in no particular order the Plymouth game. So Plymouth 1, Wigan 2. Keane getting a decent finish to make it 1-0. Mayo with a tidy finish 1-1, but Callum Lang breaks Plymouth hearts to condemn them to their 3rd defeat in a row. Puts them 4th in the table now after they were flying high. Will they be concerned losing 3 in a row, or do you think it's a case of they're due a blip, or they were due maybe an inconsistent run of form and this is coming now? Or do you think they're going to start potentially free falling?
I suppose I have to say they're going to free fall because we had them to get relegated, so they have to free fall if they're going to get anywhere near the relegation zone. So, but no, all jokes aside, I think if Plymouth and Ryan Lowe and the Pilgrims supporters had been offered this position after 20 games, 21 games, they'd have bitten your arm off. And if they'd lost that amount of games and they'd been spread out sort of, once or every 5 games and they'd lost 4 or whatever it is they've lost all season, I think, because they hadn't lost them since the opening day, had they, until this 3-game run. People wouldn't bat an eyelid. It has to be a little bit concerning that they haven't been that good. Suddenly you've lost 3 on the bounce, but they're still a good side. And it's not like they've lost to fodder, is it? They've lost to a very, very accomplished Wigan side. And I think we have to say get well soon to Charlie Wyke as well, because one of a trio, I think it was, of players collapsing in the last week, which is a little bit concerning. There's been a bit of chat on social media. Is it vaccine related? But I think Charlie confirmed that he's not been vaccinated, so it can't be linked to any sort of injection because of COVID. It's mad that we're still having to talk about it, but obviously to him and to John Fleck, and I think the other one was a Man Traore, wasn't it? At Wolverhampton was the third one, so get well soon to all of them. But I think it was Ian Holloway was speaking on the Quest highlights and said, you've got to big up Liam Richardson here to get his players to go out there and focus on a job after having their mate collapse in training a week ago and get the job done. Speaks volumes for him, speaks volumes for his group of players and another team that I'm glad to say I did have right up there. They're definitely title contenders. They look very good. They're not missing Charlie White. That's the thing. He started the season slow, didn't score, and they were still winning games. He then got going. They're obviously going to miss him for a little while now, but Will Keane's been probably revelation of the season in terms of the Wigan squad, because he's reinvented himself as a number 10, a goal-scoring number 10. But they had Stephen Humphreys that doesn't start every game, who was very good for Rochdale at this level when fit, and I've spoken about him previously. They've just got good players all over the park. They've got good experience. They've got plenty of people that know how to be successful in this division. And there's no disgrace in Plymouth losing to a very, very good Wigan side. I think they scored 25 consecutive games they mentioned on the highlights, which is a new club record, which is astonishing. If you're doing that, then you're going to give yourself a chance in games.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, watching sort of the highlights and looking at the match comments, the goal from Lang in the last minute was absolutely phenomenal. I think a couple of step overs and drills into the corner, and you think last minute into the game. He could have, his nerves of steel to put them up there. Now, obviously, sits second in the table. That's a win after the back of a draw, but 2 wins before that and a loss. They are finding some consistency and not conceding many goals at all. I think them and Rotherham are the tightest defences in the league. They've only conceded 16 but scored 34. So we talk about MK Don scoring a lot of goals, 37. They're doing exactly the same thing as well. So for me, they're going to be again up there with the squad they've assembled. And as you say, reiterate that Liam Richardson's done a hell of a job, and I think they had them in the top 2 at the start of the season. Because I don't know, he just seems to get it at this level. I think he's a very, very good manager, and they just look resilient as hell. And they've scored a lot of late goals to either come back for draws or just to not lose games and gain a few points. So every credit to Wigan and what they're doing. Rotherham, did we talk about that game? 0-0. Bit of a stalemate, but obviously Rotherham sit top of the league on goal difference, and since we've been speaking, they've found some consistency themselves. Haven't lost in, I think, 7 or 8 now. They sit top of the league.
Yeah, I think it was a 0-0, but it wasn't a poor 0-0. I don't think. I mean, we only see the brief highlights, but Rotherham hit the bar twice in the first 25 minutes. I think it was Michael Smith and then Ladapo both hit the crossbar. If one of them goes in, they could go on and win it. But you got to credit Oxford. I mean, last week they was having to call in players from the women's team to train with the first team, weren't they? Because they've had such a massive COVID outbreak and they had a game called off the week before. I think the big chance they had was Steve Seddon dry from the edge of the box that the keeper saved. But in terms of Rotherham, if you're going away from home to sides like Oxford and keeping clean sheets and picking up points and you're scoring enough goals in your home games, again, I had them sort of mid-table, but that was in the summer. They'd hardly recruited anyone. Their recruitment since then has been very, very solid. Paul Warren, 5 years in charge as well, going for his 3rd promotion with them out of this division. And he's another. If you're looking for someone who does exactly what he says on the tin in terms of promotion from League One, then Paul Warren is your man with Rotherham. So they're going to be challenging, aren't they, right up until the end of the season. Whether they have enough X factor to get themselves over the line remains to be seen. But they're doing nothing wrong at the moment, and they're in front of everybody else.
Yeah, just a note on Paul Warren, as you said, 5 years. We were talking at the start of the season or just before, sort of he agreed to continue with Rotherham. He said he's going to consider his options come the end of the season. But you've got to think is thankful probably to himself and his instincts that he's carried on managing Rotherham.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if he goes up, he's going to want another go at the Championship. The one thing missing from Paul Ward in terms of his CV with Rotherham is getting into the 2nd tier and staying there. They keep coming straight back down. And that'll be the next stepping stone, won't it? And, you learn with experience. We all do, regardless of what we do in our lives. So it'd be an interesting one to see if they do go back up into the Championship. They were very close to staying up last season. I think it came down to the last day of the season. But yeah, in terms of them in this division, they're a very good side.
Good evening, Ian. About bloody time, guys. Hope you're both better. On the road to recovery, buddy. The show will be monthly now, but we'll have a lot more to talk about within those shows as well. And yeah, as you've said, should have won it, hit the woodwork twice. But Oxford came back well second half. As a point well shared. We're going to talk about, hopefully have Graham on the show next time, is in the office tonight. So going to talk about Sunderland. We thought we're having a bit of a wobble. I think it was like no win in 3 a few weeks ago, but they've come back and they're undefeated in 3 now. And although Cambridge are struggling, it's still a decent victory to come away from home and win after a bit of a shaky spell.
Yeah, it was 2 sides that weren't in much form, isn't it? I think Cambridge have only won twice in 12. We went up there end of September and beat them and were fairly comfortable. That was when we had some players fit, though. So, but yeah, Sunderland have turned a corner, or have they? That's the question mark. They've got players out. Aidan McGeady, I think, is out for a couple of months. They're missing others. Like Luke O'Neill might be out for even longer term. I think done a shoulder at the weekend, so that's 2 huge players for them in terms of experience and ability. They're going to have other people step up. Ross Stewart was doing it at the start of the season, replacing Charlie White. Nathan Broadhead didn't do his case any harm at all, did he? It's an absolute thunderbolt with his left foot into the top corner. The second goal, it's a brilliant strike. Sunderland, shouldn't be in this division. Let's be honest. I know we all have this joke, and Graham gets the ump about it when some Sunderland fans have this divine right to win football matches at this level. I know most of the fan base don't. They know why they're here, but they are too big for League One. They should be in the Championship at the very minimum. They should probably be in the Premier League in all honesty. But if you get mismanaged, that's what happens. But they turned a corner. Whether they're good enough to be in the top two again will remain to be seen. If you're missing key players like McGeady and 09, that's going to have a negative effect because they are that good. But yeah, they seem to have come out of that weird run. The only problem for me always will be is this streaky Lee thing. And as much as we joke about it, he just seems to go on runs where he'll win 8 out of 9 and then go half a dozen without picking up any points. And you can't do that if you want to be serious about getting up automatically or at the very least through the playoffs.
Yeah, I think for me it'd be interesting if they also sign in January and what influences he brings to those signings, because it's changed the system slightly this season. Luke 09's being used differently, obviously not for the foreseeable future, but their starting 11's very, very decent. Players like Embleton on the bench at the weekend, but I still think they need that bit of quality to throughout their squad to be in the top two this season. When you've got teams like Wigan and Rotherham, I just think they're better at being sort of solid when they need to be, but also can express themselves when they want. And I personally think Sunderland will make the playoffs again, but you're looking at the playoffs once again and Sunderland fans were going to cringe because they just can't seem to have that cutting edge whilst in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see. It will be decent to see them do well and challenge for that top two, but I just think the teams around them are going to create enough chances and just be better than them. I might be wrong, but I've had Rotherham to win the league at the start of the season just because I just think they've got experience at doing it and they won't bottle it. But it'd be very, very interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks, especially Christmas, to see how Sunderland sort of cope with that pressure of all those games. He's just added to that comment, by the way, guys, it's 15 unbeaten in all comps, including the Pizza Cup, not been beaten since Fleetwood on the 11th of September. And very good win for Fleetwood that was. And another beautiful segue into their game at the weekend. Just an interesting stat from Wimbledon's point of view. They'll be gutted to concede the sort of late goal from Garner's header from the corner, sloppy defending in my opinion. But they've gained 17 points from deficits this season, which is a joint top, I think, of points. No, sorry, not joint top. It's 4 points clear of MK Dons from losing positions this season. And that's down to, 2 or 3 years of them being where they've been and having to fight for their lives and not being used to lose games.
Is that Fleetwood, sorry, you said?
No, Wimbledon, sorry.
Wimbledon.
Yeah, so despite the late sort of equaliser, or 85th minute, they've gained 17 points from losing positions this season, obviously being 1-0 down in this game. I said that's come from like years of knowing they're not defeated and being favourite for relegation, but constantly, upsetting the apple cart and staying in this league.
Yeah, Morecambe remind me of Wimbledon this season. We spoke about Morecambe at the beginning of the show and said that Cole Stockton's got, I think it's about essentially 40-45% of their league goals. And that was Joe Piggott for Wimbledon for the last couple of seasons, wasn't it? And they always managed to find a way to stay up. So we hope from Morecambe's point of view that, well, unless it's at Gill's expense, then hopefully they'll find a way to stay up as well. But was it 2-2, wasn't it? It just looked like two teams that are in no sort of form, unfortunately. Wimbledon started the season really well. Robinson changed the way they played, went 4-3-3. He's got Ollie Palmer as a target man if he wants to use him, and I think he started at the weekend, but they were playing a completely different brand of football. We went up there sort of third game of the season and drew 1-1, and we got absolutely battered. And we nicked a point in 98th minute for a free-cone goal and basically just legged it out of the ground laughing because it was an absolute robbery. But yeah, for me, it looks like two teams at the moment that are really struggling. Wimbledon look like they've been found out. I think they've only won sort of 8 points from the last 10, 11 games, which is relegation form. Fleetwood concede too many. I think anyone who follows Nappers on social media knows that he keeps beating that drum that they keep conceding too many goals. Decent point for each, I suppose, at face value. But when you're down the bottom, you need to win games. I know that from experience at the moment. And to me, it was two teams that are going to finish probably a lot closer to the bottom four than they are certainly the top six and probably the top half.
Yeah, just a note on Fleetwood as well, because since September, obviously we've lost a couple of managers, and Dinosaur Grayson finally loses the job. I didn't know in my head whether Piley was going to stick with him a little bit, but it was time for him to go. Otherwise, they would have been, in my opinion, regardless who replaces him, they would have been down with maybe 10 games to go with the way they were conceding goals. And yes, they had the odd shock. Like, I think Lincoln they drew, they beat Rotherham, and they've had some real decent performers in their side, but as a manager, he just didn't. It's not inspiring at all, is it? You just know there are going to be goals in their games, and they just didn't know how to win games under him. And it was time, in my opinion, it was the right time for him to go. And any longer, then they could have been in even more trouble.
Yeah, totally agree. And it was the same with the other one that's gone since we last spoke, and that's Nigel Atkins at Charlton. Again, both sides were in no sort of form at all. We're losing too many, weren't winning enough, and obviously we don't know if there's going to be an upturn in terms of Fleetwood. It's only been one game under Stephen Craney, I think, in caretaker charge at the moment. But
Yep.
Charlton have certainly picked up. I don't know why they keep delaying. I don't for the life of me. And Charlton fans tell me if I'm wrong. Why are they just not appointing Johnny Jackson? I know they lost at the weekend to Shrewsbury, but every time they're struggling and they need a manager, he comes in, he does a brilliant job on a caretaker basis. Why not let him have a go? He's an absolute legend. The fans will get behind him. He'll get the valley jumping. And they win games under Johnny Jackson. I don't understand why it's taking so long for them to, I don't know if they want a name or there's someone else in the pipeline, but if it was me, I'd be saying, Mr. Jackson, come and sign a contract. We'll give you a deal till the end of the season at the very least and reevaluate, because players want to play for him. Fans will cheer his name. And if you've got fans that are happy and players that are happy, then you're going to give yourself a chance. And yeah, I can't fathom what the delay is in not giving Johnny Jackson more of a longer term chance.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with you. It's worked with Liam Richardson, hasn't it? Which, not a real name manager, of course, he's done a decent job, but they took the risk on him and actually gave him a lot of faith with the money they've spent. And Charlton will spend money for the right character. And he knows the club, as you say, is a legend. And after they beat Plymouth, and he took to being viral on social media with that speech to say they're going to go on and beat Morecambe, then we're going to go on and beat Shrewsbury, and weren't meant to be as such with a 2-0 lead against Morecambe, a really good comeback from them. But a loss at the weekend for them, a really big win for Shrewsbury, and they don't come as last minute as Odu's goal and a relatively smart finish into the bottom corner. Keeper arguably could have done a little bit better with some of the saves he made in that game, but it's a real dent in Jackson's recent form, but a real sort of shining light for Shrewsbury, who puts him a little bit away from that relegation zone.
Yeah, huge win, regardless of, what the opposition are and what form they're in. Shrewsbury haven't won enough football matches this season, so any win and a clean sheet is a huge bonus. And yeah, I think I'm no goalkeeper. I don't know whether Udo's striking it so early caught the keeper out, but he got a big hand on it and sort of shoveled it into the side net. And you'd be disappointed if you're a keeper, I'd imagine. You'd be disappointed if you're an Addicts fan, but absolute ecstasy for the Salop supporters who were really poor at the start of the season. They couldn't score a goal, let alone win a football match. So they're picking up. Steve Cotterill seems happy at the moment. We're not getting so many of his weird and wonderful press conferences. So we all have to rely on John Yems in League Two with Cop Crawley to cheer us up and inspire us. But Shrewsbury are going to be another one of a team that's in a relegation battle. And let's not pretend one win changes anything. They're going to be down there with the likes of Doncaster and Crewe and Fleetwood and Wimbledon and us and Morecambe and probably a couple of others, because it will change. And one swallow doesn't make a summer and all of that. But it's a massive win against a side that were in decent form coming into the fixture.
Yeah, with class and abundance in their side versus what Shrewsbury have as well. Ian's had a couple of comments, not fancying the trip to Dark.
Absolutely not, Ian. Absolutely not.
I could have probably told you that one. Just he backs you up as well. Whether Kevin they appointed Jackson, madness, my opinion. And then again, good week for the Shrews. Draw with Sunderland
as well. Yeah, good point there. Yeah, so 4 points from them two is absolutely massive.
Yeah, very decent. Just a handful of sort of games to talk about, really. I wanted to talk a little bit about Ipswich, because since we've talked, since the last show, they were obviously in the relegation zone, but now sit 11th with the win on the weekend. Scored 36 goals, conceded 30, 27 points. They did obviously have a wobble with 2 losses in a row, but overall since we last spoken, Matt, they've been absolutely, well, should I say, absolutely better than what they were, but still having that worry of conceding goals. They had so many chances against Crewe, and arguably just scraped a 2-1 victory, even though they should have had about 5 goals. And for me, arguably goal of the season was scored with Selena at the weekend, as Stockton's or Selena's for me. An absolute magic goal, in my opinion. The way he traps the ball and sees the keeper, it's utterly class. But 2 different types of goals, but both can be appreciated in their own right.
Oh yeah, it's like you say, it's completely different. It's not different in the sense they both had to be very aware of where the keeper is, so they've had to get their head up. But yeah, obviously it's a lot closer, but technically it's a wonderful finish, and it's almost in one movement. The first touch and the finish is almost seamless, and it's a great little clip. It reminds me of sort of growing up watching the Premier League when Eric Cantona used to do it, and then just sort of stand there just staring at the Stretford end as if to say, yeah, I'm really, really good. Yeah, it's a great finish. It's a great finish, but you still get that feeling with Ipswich. It's almost like we'll go in front, we'll score a second goal, and then we'll see how much we can test our supporters, and we'll give a team a chance, and we'll let them have one back, and then we'll just sort of fly by the seat of our pants for the last half hour. But they're winning more than they were winning when we last spoke. What, they 7 points off the playoffs now?
Yeah.
They'll certainly score plenty of goals. We know that. It's just whether they can keep it out at the other end, because invariably, if that had been a better team than Crewe, they might have ended up dropping points again. But yeah, they're certainly going the right way. I know some of their fan base are still not entirely enamoured with what Paul Cook's doing, and unfortunately comes with the pressure when you sign 20 players and put yourselves in the shop window to be promotion contenders, and I had them to be champions, like Charlton to be second. So that's going about as successfully as dual season at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, there's signs of improvement, isn't there? I'd say the top 2's definitely gone purely because of the start, but they've certainly got a chance of gate crashing the top 6 if they can learn how to just tighten it up at the back. They'll score plenty. Macaulay Bond's a great striker at this level. Joe Pickett can barely get a game at the moment, which tells you all you need to know. They've got Sonny Aluko as well, who came in. I think he might be injured at the moment, but you know, people like Connor Chaplin, Scott Fraser. There's an abundance of attacking riches. The lad Chelina that scored at the weekend, Raheem Harper playing in the middle of the park. Who else have they got? They've got
Morgan Fraser,
Sam Morsey. Yeah, there's
Aluka did start on against. He set up the first goal as well.
Oh, did he start? I thought he was out injured. I do apologise. So they've got loads of options. Bottom line, when everyone's fit, it's a ridiculous amount of riches to be choosing from in attacking areas. It's just whether they can sort out the other end.
Talk to him about Crewe. I think, is it a simple case of their squad's not experienced and good enough, and they're still relying on old Tat up front, which used to be obviously a decent striker, but they had their fair share against Ipswich. I think it's 50-50 in terms of possession. They had something like 13 shots as well. 11 shots, 3 on target. Ipswich only had 4 on target as well. They're going to go down, in my opinion, but it's a crying shame because, in essence, they can play some good football, but they just concede way too many goals and they're not scoring enough.
Unfortunately, I think they're just the victims of their own success in terms of their academy, because they get all these people that come through, but eventually the cycle goes the other way and they all leave, and they've not replaced them adequately, have they? The likes of NG and Pickering and whoever else has left, Dale, and there's so many, isn't there, that have moved on in the last sort of 12, 18 months. Yeah, I think them and Doncaster have gone. Sorry, fans of Alex and Rovers. They're both. Crewe beat us just over a week ago, 2-0. But not to make excuses, but we've basically putting out 11 that are left available at the moment, and we've got children on the bench. So I hope I'm wrong for their sakes. But I hope I'm right for our sakes at the moment, because we're right down there, and if that's 2 relegation spots already taken up, it reduces the chances of us getting relegated. So, but they just concede too many and don't score enough. That's bottom line, isn't it? I think Chris Porter's their striker at the moment. Mika Mandron's not the player he was last year. Has Cashkit done enough since he come in? I'm not sure.
No, they're using him as a wing back at the moment, aren't they?
So, and I think I spoke to the Railwaymen podcast, and one of their fans for my match preview just before we played them, and he said that David Artell's massively overthinking everything, that because they're not winning games, it's a different system each week, it's different personnel. All right, it worked against us, but they've got 12 points from 20 games. They've got goal difference of -19. They've played more than Doncaster, more than Fleetwood, more than Morecambe, more than Shrewsbury, more than Lincoln, more than Wimbledon. That's all the teams in the bottom 8. It's only Gills that have played the same amount of games, and they're already 7 points from safety. For me, it looks a forlorn hope, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Talking about managerial changes, what's Swellen's got to do to lose his job?
I don't know. It's mental, isn't it? I follow Into the Empty Net on Twitter, and obviously and Dapper as well. But I know Adam, who runs the Into the Empty Net blog, is, well, fuming about the whole situation, as are pretty much all of the Doncaster fan base. The recruitment was wrong. The players they signed don't look good enough. The players they signed got injured. I said when we beat them end of October, that was our last win. They're a nice looking side. If you give them a couple of minutes on the ball, they'll pass it sideways on the halfway line. They'll play little triangles on the halfway line and in their third of the pitch, but they just lack any kind of cut and thrust in the final third. And we weren't great that night, but we knew that if we did score the first goal, the chances are we'd keep a clean sheet and win the game. And we've not kept a lot of clean sheets this season. I think we've kept 3 or 4 in the league. And we saw it out quite comfortably in the final 15 minutes after scoring our goal. Again, same as Crewe. They've got 13 points. Their goal difference is -23.
They've scored 11 goals.
I know, and they picked up 1 point on the road. So
11?
It's unbelievably. Yeah, so you're looking at just over half a goal a game. That's got relegation written all over it.
How can you score 11? I think one of those wins was like 2-0 anyway. Let's say they've scored 2 goals.
They've scored 3 less in the league than Cole Stockton.
How's he still got his job? I know they haven't. I know they didn't sign very well. They haven't got a striker and stuff, but 11 goals. I mean, got teams like Fleetwood being quite creative, got some absolutely brilliant talents with Garner, etc., scoring goals from free kicks, corners, etc. You just got to think you've got to find a way to win. You've got to find a way not to lose, and they're just piss poor. And how he's continued to stay in the job with scoring 11 goals. If they were losing 3-2 or, maybe a bit more exciting in their matches, but you can't score that many goals and concede that many and still think every single week something's going to change. It's just insanity. And
yeah, you've got to be questioning the board. What are the boards seeing?
They're clearly relegated. Yeah, well, they must have nudes of someone in the board, because it's just crazy. And they haven't exactly been faithful with managers in the past either, have they, Doncaster? And you've just got to question what's going through and what's going to change. They're not going to suddenly win 3 or 4. Look at the talent in this squad. I don't fancy them against Fleetwood. I don't fancy them against Gillingham. I don't fancy against, although they've had positive results, of course, against some of those sides. But I wouldn't want to be Doncaster at all. I'd rather probably be Crewe with some of the youth that they've got than the way that Doncaster are playing football at the moment.
Yeah, at least there's a plan, and you understand with Crewe is that they tend to have this cycle every few years. Once these players that they bring through and develop and nurture, they have to go and move on. But that's how they run their club at the moment. If you ask a Doncaster fan, what's the plan? I think you just get met with question marks and shrugs of shoulders, because, like you say, it's unfathomable. How can anyone think that Richie Wellens is doing a decent job? I get we have injuries. You can say the same about Steve Evans at Gills, but
yeah,
11 goals in 19 games
they've still, well, they got Close, Barlow, Dodu, Smith, Hupp. Not relatively decent defence, but good enough to be organised to win games. And like I said, just to score 11 goals is absolutely shambolic, but you'll see what happens with them in the future. And as Ben said, awful manager living off, a promotion with Swindon, who had some absolutely class talent inside it and at League Two.
He did all right at Oldham a few years ago as well, though, just in his defence a little bit.
Yeah, it's League Two though, right?
It is, yeah, I get that, but you have to start somewhere, and you have to make the step up. And I suppose his defence would be that all my players have been injured, but I don't know. But Doncaster fans can answer the question better than we can, can't they? So
yeah, maybe I'll do a club podcast with them to see what's actually going wrong.
yeah,
But
get them on that. Cheer me right up. That'll make my season seem wonderful.
yeah, you can actually just chat to someone who's worse than you.
Someone who's below me, yeah, which is tricky at the moment because there's only 3 clubs that we can get on.
Because it's been roughly 2 months, it has been 2 months. I'm going to take a look at the form guide now and just talk through that really over the last 2 months. Obviously, we look at the table. We'd look at the last 10 to 12 matches. I'm going to share my screen. Sorry. You can see that all right?
It'd be great if you could zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can. Can I zoom in? No, this is not working. No.
Can we just do it to either last 10 or last 12 then, so it makes it bigger? Because
sorry about this.
Can't see Gilles in any of them. You have to scroll right to the bottom of the page.
Let me see if I can get there.
For page 2.
No, for some reason there's not. Oh my god.
I'll just have to really squint.
No, it's not working. Sorry, mate. Don't know why. Oh, I'll talk you through the last 10 matches. We've got Rotherham first, Oxford second. Really good run of results for them. Obviously, we talked about Portsmouth already third, Wigan fourth, Sheffield Wednesday fifth, Wickham sixth, Charlton seventh, Ipswich eighth, Plymouth ninth, MK Dons 10th, Sunderland 11th, Cheltenham 12th. So that's your top 12. Any surprise in there for you? For me, it's probably about what we expected over the last couple of months in some of those turnarounds. Obviously, Rotherham being quite consistent.
Milton Keynes surprised me a little bit. I thought they'd be all right. I know it's last 10, but no, they're teams that you'd expect to be in the top half at the start of the season, aren't they? They're all big clubs that have been successful at this level previously. If you look through all of them, Rotherham have been in the Championship. Oxford are always there or thereabouts in the playoffs. Portsmouth are a big club. Wigan Championship last season. Wednesday the same. Wickham the same. Charlton been promoted in the last couple of years out of this division. Ipswich Championship. Plymouth, like you say, I know we spoke about them earlier on in the show and said that, is it a concern that they've lost the last 3? But if you take that out, then it's 7 unbeaten before then, and probably more than that because they hadn't lost since the opening day against Rotherham. So 3 defeats on the spin, but still 9th in the form guide. If you pick up a win in the next game, they probably jump back up into the top 6 for that. So Sunderland, as we spoke about, streaky league, and his little weird runs. There's only 1 draw in there, isn't there? And that's 5 wins and 4 defeats. So if they can just find a way when they're in tight games and lose, and if they can just sort of turn them into draws, they'll be right up there. But at the same time, if you've got games where you're winning and then end up losing them, that'd be a concern. But look at Gilles all the way. Oof.
Yeah, so I hate to point it out. We're moving on to the bottom 4. You've got the bottom 3 there, which Fleetwood, Gillingham, and Crewe. Crewe being rock bottom on 5 points out of the last 10.
Surprised Doncaster were that high in the last 10, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I've only got 2 wins, still 5 losses and 3 draws. So you've got Crewe, Gillingham, Fleetwood all on 1 win in the last 10, which obviously succumbed to Grayson being sacked. I don't think Crewe are going to sack Artell unless he walks away, which also maybe don't see him doing either. And like you say, Doncaster with 2 wins and Wimbledon with 2 wins, Cambridge with 2 wins, Lincoln with 2 wins, all in the last 10. So the bottom sort of half of that table is going to be probably as exciting as the top half. But is there anyone you see out of that lot really picking up and pushing themselves away, or do you just see much of a muchness in the next sort of few games?
I've said all season. I've said that we won't be in a relegation trouble all the time Steve Evans is in charge. But the longer this injury crisis keeps going on, then obviously it makes it harder because we're still playing catch up. But tables don't lie at the end of the day, and if you look at them, that's the last 10 games we're 23rd, and the last 12 games we're 21st. It's awful form. It's relegation form. That's why you're in the bottom four of each of them comparative tables. But Lincoln are the ones that probably surprised me. I had them a lot higher up. I had them 8th at the start of the season. I know Michael Appleton's coming for a little bit of criticism from some of the Imps faithful, and I know Gary, who runs the brilliant Stacey West blog, has been quite vocal in his support of Appleton and said that people need to, realise where we are, and that last season they were probably punching above their weight, but I think they're better than 2 wins in the last 10, and what, they're only on 21 points in the league, aren't they? So they're only sort of 4 points off the relegation zone, which is a little bit concerning. But I'd say they're probably best equipped to swiftly move up to mid-table if they can just regain their confidence and form. But it's harder said than done, isn't it? This is a table, and they always say the game's played on grass, not on paper. And this is all stuff that's conjecture. Until you start winning points and winning games, you're going to struggle, and that's why them and all them other teams in and around them are down there struggling at the moment.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And it's hard for me when you actually look at the League One table. I think you start separating those teams at the bottom. Now, I still don't think Lincoln will be anywhere near the bottom four. But like you say, it's the teams without the quality and depth, which I think are going to struggle. And I think you're seeing a consistent pattern now. You're looking at those last 12 games. I hate to say it, but obviously the likes of Gillingham, Doncaster, Fleetwood and Crewe have been quite consistently in there. And even like from the last 6, the last 8, the last 10, the last 12. The only team that you really sort of worry for a little bit, like you say, is maybe the likes of Cambridge, where I think we've all had to have bottom at the start of the season, but we didn't think Crewe would be that bad. Can they find some form, and can Morecambe find some form? Because if Stockton goes in January, which I don't know if it's a risk or not, whether he's just going to stay there, see how the season pans out, you're going to worry that they're going to stop scoring goals and continue to concede as well, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. That's the big trouble, and we're probably the same at the moment, because with Verdane Oliver and Carl Dempsey both injured, your captain and your top scorer, we've not scored in 3 or 4. And for all that John Akindi did very well at the weekend in general play, I thought he was superb. He created himself a chance first half, but scuffed his shot when he was through on goal, and he should win us a penalty. And he could invariably have set up the winner if Danny Lloyd had taken one of the 2 chances that were presented to him. But you don't feel as confident if it's John Akindi running through on goal as you do for Dane Oliver. And it'll be exactly the same for Morecambe fans. If Cole Stockton was to go, it's 40% of their goals scored just suddenly walks out the door, and then you've got to go and find someone. I know Jonah Iunga, they got from Bristol Rovers on a free, looks promising, but I think he's a different type of forward, tends to play from the side.
He's definitely not as extinct forward as someone like Cole Stockton as well.
Goals are really difficult to replace, and especially in January, because no one wants to get rid of their best players.
Yeah, we'll come on to players this season now. Just off the cuff, is anyone you've seen this season, sort of especially over the last couple of months where we haven't been on air, that you've been maybe hasn't made headlines because he hasn't scored, but you've been thoroughly impressed with?
Scott Twine, I think, stands out. Horrible to watch when he's not playing for your team. He was riling up the crowd when they beat us 4-1 at the end of September. I know that we had 10 men, but he's a very good player. He scores goals, he creates chances. I think Michael Smith's been brilliant for Rotherham. Never really saw him as a 15, 16 goal a season man, but he's been really good. Plymouth have been the surprise package for me. So anyone from their front line, Jeffcott, Hardy. But for me, I think James Wilson in their squad's made a huge difference. I had him down as a key player at the start of the season for them in terms of trying to sort out their defensive issues, and he clearly out. I'm not saying it's just him turning up. Obviously, Ryan Lowe is coaching that team very well, and they've got other good players. But James Wilson seems to have made a massive difference.
I would say a point.
Danny Andrew, I think, for Fleetwood, if you're looking at teams down the bottom, loves a set piece. He scored, I think, 5 this season. They've all been really good. Cole Stockton, obviously, we have to mention.
See, Twine, his top assist this season, well, joint with Max Power, who's also had 6 assists, but he scored 9 goals. But the most impressive thing about Scott Twine's season, he's made 41 chances this season, 41 quite key chances for his team that they haven't converted. So just shows you what a class playmaker he actually was. And they don't miss Fraser at all because they've signed, in my opinion, someone who's made that step up to League One to create 41 chances and score 9 goals while you're at it, and 6 assists. He needs to stay fit this season if MK Dons are going to go up.
Yeah, and invariably you say he's probably having a better season than the bloke he replaced in Scott Fraser, because Scott Fraser's been in and out of the Ipswich side. So fair play again to everyone at MK Dons. They always recruit well, don't they? They seem if they lose one, they get someone in who's just as good or if not better. So Callum Lang was another one we mentioned at the start of the show. He's been very good. He's got 11 and goals and assists combined. Lee Gregory, I said, would be a massive signing for Sheffield Wednesday if you can keep him fit. I know his legs are going a little bit, but he was never out and out quick, so it wasn't as much of an issue as you think if someone who you buy who's in their 30s, who had loads of pace earlier on in their career, if they keep him fit, he'll get 15 league goals. That'll give them a chance. There's been loads of good players, haven't there? Just none of them from my team, unfortunately.
Dean's still doing himself proud, so
Well, yeah, when he's fit, he's always a threat. Unfortunately, he's out at the moment. Looks like we're losing him for another month. So, and Cole Dempsey's out for 3 or 4 weeks after he's having an operation on his knee, I think it is. So, to repair some cartilage.
We've talked about just off, well, not subject, on subject a little bit. Cole Stockton, 13 goals. He scores 1 in 3 shots on target, 30% shot conversion, only bettered by Bond this season. If only Ipswich's defence could stay strong, that they certainly would be in the top 2. He's 31% goal conversion with 11 goals this season. And he's, I said at the start, I think he's going to be a phenomenal signing. And I think looking back to put Ipswich where we put them, I think we both had to finish second. I think I'd rather them second, maybe Ipswich first or vice versa. I think they've just got too many good players, haven't they? And Cook can't get them playing. But Bond's been that shining light. It's very, very consistent in front of goal.
Yeah, he's been top draw, hasn't he? I think, like I say, if you're keeping Joe Piggott out the side, then you're doing something right. Because Joe Piggott scored a ridiculous volume of goals over the last 2 to 3 seasons that ultimately got him the move to Portman Road. So, yeah, it always comes back to the same thing with Ipswich. We can't say it enough. If they sort out defensively, then they'll be a real threat right at the top end of the table. But
Cook still persists on playing three attackers with 1 striker. I just don't really get it. I think he needs to revert back to even a 4-4-2 or get 4-3-1-2 because you've got a really decent midfield there. But I can't really hide away from the fact he's not playing Piggott. I know Bond's doing a good job, but do you think that they'd score potentially a lot more goals with those two playing on the pitch? I'm not too sure, but if he's not going to play, he's certainly going to be pretty annoyed because he was a marquee signing for them, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a massive signing. And again, I think I had him as the key player for Ipswich. No, I didn't. That's a lie. Tell a lie. I picked the goalkeeper. That went well because he's not in the team anymore. Haladiki, or whatever it is, because Christian Walton's the number 1 there. So, yeah, he's obviously going to be frustrated, and you'd be disappointed if he wasn't disappointed himself, because you want people to be fed up when they're not playing, as long as they're acting professionally. But Joe Piggott's got no complaints at the moment, all the while Macaulay Bond scoring goals. And I don't know. I mean, I don't watch them week in, week out. So again, you'd have to ask someone like the Cruncher or the Talking Town boys whether could they change the system to try and implement an extra striker. But like you've already mentioned, they've got such a good squad and they've got so many options that in attacking areas that we could sit here and they could pick 3 teams and you'd go, oh, why have you left him out? Because if they play 2 up top, they have to lose a midfield. You go, oh, you've left Connor Chaplin on the bench or Raheem Harper on the bench. Or if they change it and play 2 wingers, a number 10 and a centre forward, we're saying, why is Joe Piggott or Macaulay Bond not in the team? Or so, as much as it's nice to have all them options, it is hard because you have to keep them all happy and you have to try and find your best 11. And when you're signing so late into the window, you're then having to learn it during games. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't sit here and whinge if I was an Ipswich fan with all that talent at my disposal. It'd be lovely, but yeah, obviously that's the pressure that comes to Paul Cook when he gets all them players in.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian's just popped there. Windass returning from injury is massive for Wednesday. Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be very vital to the second half of your season, especially with all the games coming up. And Benoit's having a decent season for them as well. Just the last point I was going to make, not just all about attacking and setting up goals, but we mentioned it earlier, Rotherham and Wigan having a very, very decent time of it defensively. I think Rotherham conceded 13 goals, scored 34. Wigan have also scored 34, but let in 3 more goals at 16. But both keepers have kept 8 clean sheets each, both Janssen and Amos, and it's just every credit to both the managers for the way they've set up this season, and that they're learning how to win games or certainly not lose games, aren't they? And that's for me, while they'll both be up there at the end of the season.
100%, yeah, because they're getting it right at both ends. They're hard to beat. They're resolute. Keep clean sheets. Don't lose football matches. And then if you look at them teams, we've already mentioned it: Will Keane, Charlie Wyke. If you go to Rotherham, Michael Smith, Freddie Ladapo, they're goal scorers at this level, so they're always going to give you Will Grigg as well. Callum Lang. It's staggering, isn't it? It's I know we can talk about budgets and wages and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, if they're spending within their means and what they've got available from their chairman, then good luck to them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a look at I think we've got a week's break, some in the FA Cup as well, haven't we? This weekend, so there'll be a few League One fixtures.
Oh yeah, Jules can't lose at the weekend.
I had them up earlier. Let's take a look. Going into December now. Ho, indeed. Yeah, we've only got 2 games at the weekend. So Accrington Stanley against Fleetwood. It's a pretty big game considering Accrington coming off the back of that 1-0 win at the weekend, and Sunderland have got Oxford, and that's the pick of the 2 there, isn't it? It's going to be a very interesting game. Sunderland at home. Oxford with, you say, put together a squad because of COVID. So how do you see sort of both those games going in terms of Accrington?
Who's at home, Accrington?
Yeah, sorry. Excuse me. Try for it. Accrington at home to Fleetwood, yeah. Stephen Crenny's second game in charge.
It's hard, isn't it? When a manager leaves, because we always talk about, new manager bounce and all that type of thing, and players suddenly think, I've got to impress someone new. So
Accrington sit 14th in the league, 24 points, just won their last game, but they did lose 3 in a row previous to that.
You back Accrington to win it by the odd goal.
Yeah,
for me,
I'm going to go with a draw. I think it'd be quite a tight affair. Essentially 1-1, but yeah, if anyone's going to win that, for me, it's Accrington. They're going to be well up for that at home, but Fleetwood have been, I know they've conceded a lot of goals, but they've had their games where they're tough to beat. They've drew against the likes of Sunderland and Lincoln this season, so they do know how to sort of be defensively structured, but that was under Grayson. I don't know if Craney can, after conceded 2 but scoring 2, it could be an end-to-end game, so we'll see. I think that's got the potential to be quite a good game, that one. Fleetwood need to win a lot more than Accrington do, so let's see how they attack that game. Predictions for Oxford Sunderland?
Sunderland
Oxford, should I say?
Sunderland to win it. Again, it'll be a tight game. Carl Robinson's a good manager at this level. I've said that plenty of times. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but he always has his sides organised. But Sunderland look like they're in the middle of building another good run at the moment, and I'll back them to win by the odd goal.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Sunderland 2-0. It puts them. They've only played 18 games. Some of them around and played 20. That puts them on 38 points, level with the top 2. So for me, that's. I think they're going to have. I think they will win that one. I think anything less than a win, again, you start questioning Johnson. I know it's only one game, and Oxford a decent side, but that is the sort of big games you need to be winning, especially when others around them aren't playing. We'll take a look to the following Tuesday, just before we end the show. Obviously, we're going to have a lot more on Twitter in the next couple of weeks as well. Now we're back, so we can tweet a lot more fixtures, etc. But we'll just take a quick look at those games. Can you see them a bit better than last time? There we go. I can zoom in a bit better.
That's better. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So Accrington again playing another big game at home, 2 home games in a row. Is a chance for them to push towards the top half of the table. Charlton Ipswich is absolutely massive. Cheltenham, Cambridge, Crewe, Lincoln, Fleetwood, Bolton,
Portsmouth Wednesday stands out for me. That looks like the monster. That and the Charlton Ipswich one. Yeah, they're probably the two ties of that set of fixtures, aren't they?
Yeah, I forgot to mention Cheltenham earlier, so I do apologise, but a really good 2-2 draw with Bolton at the weekend. Kachunga scoring an absolute worldie, but May getting on the score sheet.
That was Alfie May's first league double. I'd never realised that. He'd never scored it more than once in a league game.
Mental, isn't it?
Unbelievable stat. Yeah, he's a very good player. He works his arse off. Obviously, we've seen enough of Cheltenham. I've had enough of Cheltenham, I'm not going to lie. In the last month, they've knocked us out of the League Cup, knocked us out of the FA Cup, beat us in the league, injured half of our squad in the first cup game as well. But yeah, Alfie May, I think he was born in Kent. He went to Doncaster and it didn't quite work out, but he works his nuts off. He's a great foil for Carl Vassell. He plays from the side, and yeah, it's good to see him doing well. But yeah, Cheltenham have been phenomenal. Michael Duff's a really good manager at this level, and I think I've put the notes down again here. Apologies, we didn't talk about that one, but I think it's probably two teams, Cheltenham and Bolton, that I see probably being mid-table this season. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't think either are good enough to get in the top six, and I don't think they'll be in any danger whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's May's 6th goal of the season as well. And like you say, he's reaping the rewards at the start of the season. He just couldn't take his chances, could he? But he's working hard. So hopefully he can get to sort of 10 to 12 goals this season comfortably, and I think he will. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if we're going to make sort of predictions, I think Accrington can pick up 6 points from the next couple of games.
Yeah, I think Accrington will beat Wimbledon.
Yeah, I think Charlton Ipswich is a massive one. Not only will Johnny Jackson potentially be looking to take that job permanently, although he doesn't, seem to want to be given it by the board. But if he goes on to win that, Paul Cook's banging trouble, in my opinion. I don't think he's got that much time, despite their position in the last sort of 10 games. But I don't think the Ipswich fans are going to want to continue to having to rebuild every other week. So that's an interesting one. Cheltenham, Cambridge. I fancy Cheltenham at home for that one. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think you've got to go with the form guide at the moment. Yeah, Cheltenham banging form, Cambridge completely opposite end of the spectrum. And yeah, Cheltenham are well drilled. I'd back them to win that fairly comfortably.
Hate to say it, but a chance for Lincoln to regain some form this season away to Crewe.
It is, yeah. But at the same time, Crewe will be thinking if we're ever going to win a football match again at home, it's going to be against a Lincoln side that's out of sort. So for me, draw.
Wow, good call. Doncaster, Oxford as another. Well, it's got to be an away banker, surely.
But again, I know it's weird, isn't it? But Doncaster, all their points apart from one have come at home. So, but they don't score enough goals. So
I think Oxford defensively,
0-0, 1-0 Oxford.
Yep. Fleetwood Bolton, very interesting game because Bolton like to concede, but they'll also obviously go at Fleetwood.
Probably win a high scoring affair for me.
Pompey Sheffield Wednesday.
You can do that one.
I'll go 1-1.
I can do the next one. Rotherham will win comfortably. Unfortunately, we haven't got enough about us at the moment because we've got people missing and we're out of form. And Rotherham don't concede; they score. They're very good at home. They're top of the league, and we're not.
Yeah, I don't think you've got a chance in that one. In my opinion, it's going to be. Well, it'll be the result of the season so far if you come away with 3 points. So I completely agree with you there. Sunderland, Morecambe. I think Morecambe will put up a fight, but it will be probably 2-0 or 3-1 to Sunderland.
Yeah, I think Sunderland could run right there a little bit, unfortunately.
Wycombe Burton, probably not the tastiest games. Burton seems to flick in and out of form at the moment. 2-0 win at the weekend, but I think Wycombe will just have enough and scrape that 1-0.
Yeah, Wycombe, I think, will win that as well. They're generally decent. I know they lost 2 on the spin after being unbeaten all season at home, but they beat us comfortably at Adams Park in October. They've got goal scorers in Sam Vokes, in Brandon Hanlon, dare I say it. They've got Gareth McCleary who sets them up. They've got Joe Jacobson who scores from free kicks, penalties, corners. They're a very good side. Gareth Ainsworth's a very good manager. Burton picked up, haven't they? I think they've won their last 2 without conceding, but Wycombe I think they'd edge that one as well.
Yeah, you're spot on. Burton, I say, like 2-0 win at the weekend, comfortable, 2 on the spin, and that puts them just 6 points away from the playoffs as well. So I don't think they'll have enough this season, but they're going to keep flirting with it, and it's a good time to be a Burton fan considering where they have been the last few years. So every credit to the job that's been done there as well. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. It's our first monthly show. Sorry, there's not too much detail in terms of the last sort of 10 weeks, but we'll be here for probably 3 hours if we were to talk about the last couple of months. And this show is all about getting back to to speaking to each other and the listeners, of course. And the Twitter is going to be a lot more active over the next couple of weeks with the games, but the monthly show will be maybe just before sort of the Christmas rush, just afterwards. We'll see what the festive activities bring. I think it will be just before though, because we'll be with families and stuff, and we'll probably miss out until the new year. But for me, just thanks for, again, your understanding, guys. And I look forward to interacting a lot on Twitter, and this show is going to be available shortly after. Anything from you, Matt?
No, same again. Good to be back. Keep supporting, keep following. Yeah, and we're trying to be, like I say, we're going to be trying to be more active on social media in terms of Twitter and stats and fixtures and results and that type of thing to get you people involved. And thanks for bearing with us, because obviously there are plenty of good podcasts and shows out there dedicated to League One, and we hope that we're one of them. We're not the most professional. I don't think we try to be. At the end of the day, it's just two blokes having a chat about football, which is what we like, and we hope you enjoy listening. So thanks for bearing with us, and yeah, we'll be back in a month. Maybe we could try and do 2 over Christmas, couldn't we? I suppose.
I think we'll need to
before, and then one sort of just before New Year, or we could do one just after New Year, because that will cover Boxing Day, the 29th, and the New Year's Day fixtures, couldn't we? So
yeah, we'll get a couple in the book, and what I'm going to do as well is I'm trying to fit a couple of club podcasts in during sort of December as well, just to catch up with a few of you on a personal level and get some sort of thoughts of fans out of their own personal ones that aren't live like we did previous to sort of going off air as well. So I'm looking forward to catching up with some of you as well. But from all of us at the third tier, it's good night.